Alright guys, welcome back to Elden Ring. We are currently in the Liurnia of the Lakes region. We're going to go get a nice talisman down here in the Stillwater Cave called the Winged Sword Insignia. Now if you've played Dark Souls 3, this talisman is the equivalent of the Right Eye of Pontiff, where you would get a bonus increase the longer your attacks persisted. This is just one of many talismans that we can use to stack for extra damage. So very useful against certain bosses and certain tough enemies like rune bears. More specifically, the rune bear that has 18,000 health in the Caelid region, but we'll get to him later. Welcome to Stillwater Cave. Now this cave has several enemies that are annoying. Miranda sprouts, rot disciples, man bats, and we're going to finish off by killing the boss, a clean rot knight. Luckily, it's just a solo one, and he doesn't have his friend like he did in Caelid when we got the golden scarab. Now, I'm just reallocating my flasks here because I don't need health. I'm just going with more FP because I'm going to be using buffs quite a bit to increase my pot damage because we're going to be throwing a lot of pots here. And we're going to need our jellyfish shield for extra damage with our pots. We're going to need the Arrow's Reach Talisman and our Fire Scorpion Charm for extra fire damage. Miranda Sprouts are weak to fire, so they are very tanky enemies though, so you need to throw quite a few pots, at least 4 or 5. To start off the cave, you're going to see a Rot Disciple right here on patrol, but there's another one in the distance here, but with the Arrow's Reach Talisman, you should be able to take both of them out pretty quickly. Now before moving on, there's a man bat. We're going to step right over here to get the angle on him. You'll be able to lock onto him right here. Just go ahead and shoot him. Now let's get our buffs ready because we're going to be throwing quite a few pots here. These Miranda sprouts are extremely tanky like I said. So the more buffs you have, the quicker they will die and the less pots you'll have to use. Just remember every time you use a bunch of pots down here, you're going to need to replenish. It's going to take at least 4 to 5 volcano pots to take one of these out. But you don't want to go down there because it's just filled with poison. Although we did get a crystal tear last episode, which will allow us to have immunity for 3 minutes. We will be using that shortly. We're just going to finish this one off with a quick shot here. Now that we've done that, this first area has been cleared. Let's go ahead and replenish our volcano pots. Make our way around here. We're going to go take out another cluster of Miranda sprouts, but before we do that, we're going to come up upon 2 of the rot disciples, but we don't have to deal with them because we stop right here and we can get the lock on and we can just shoot them from a distance. Why deal with them when you can just shoot them from here? Now that they're dead, we can get our buffs ready again because we're going to use twice as many pots this time because there are 2 Miranda sprouts right next to each other, and that's going to take most of our inventory here. We'll have to replenish each time we have an encounter here. Just keep throwing until they are all dead. Of course, you do not have to kill all the enemies in this cave, but I'm just showing you the optimal way to kill all the enemies. But if you wanted to, you could just go right to the boss. It's not hard to get to the boss, but careful here because there are man bats. Now this is where you want to get your jar cannon out and be very careful about how far you go into the area here because there are 2 man bats and an operatic bat that will come down and kill you as soon as you enter the room. So before we enter the room, we'll just get the lock on, shoot this one. There's another man bat right next to him. Move up a little bit to get the lock on right here. Now the operatic bat is to the right and he's going to take 2 shots, but he'll be stunned when you hit him the first time, so you'll be able to reload and hit him again before he can do anything. Now there is a sage's set right here. You can just jump in the poison, but don't stay in here long. We will be going into poison quite a bit, but that's why we have a Blessing Boon incantation and the physics flask that has the crystal tear that we got in the last episode, the Crimson Burst crystal tear, which will allow us to have 3 minutes of immunity to poison damage. Let's go ahead and take out this Rot Disciple right here in front of us. Now we don't want to go any further because there are man bats that are hard to get the angle on unless you go into the poison. So I'm going to put on my icon shield here. It's not really necessary. It's just going to cause a little bit more health regen for me. And I'm also going to stack it with the Blessings Boon. I am going to be fat rolling because I have quite a bit of load on me. And we're going to go get another talisman shortly that will give us the extra 2 health per second that I mentioned in a couple of episodes, that you can stack with the icon shield to get 5 health per second with no buffs active, just passive regen, which is nice. Once we loot the area, you'll be able to take out some more Miranda Blossoms. That's what they're called, Miranda Blossoms. The sprouts are the small ones. The blossoms are the big ones. So sorry I got that wrong already. But let's just go on ahead and do our buffs. Of course, you're going to make sure you have to FP to do it. Once all the buffs are ready, just start spamming again with your volcano pots. If you wanted to deal with the bats up top, you could, but I hate those things. Are very powerful. They grab you and they kill you instantly. I just want to get the angle on them, so I came down here to get the angle on them. So to kill the bats, you're going to have to go back up here. And you'll get the lock on here. Get 2 for 1. But there's one more bat that I forgot about. And I almost got hit by him, but I used a volcano pot right here to take him out. I played Ring Around the Rosie around this area right here. I could hear him, but I just couldn't see him. There he is. The AoE from the volcano pot will take him out too, which is very nice. Volcano pots are so extremely useful in this game, it's unbelievable. Now we're ready to go to the next section. The cave is pretty much done. We just have to deal with a group of rotten disciples, and then it's the boss. So we're going to go ahead and drink our physics flask, because by the time we get to the boss, we'll still have our fire damage from the physics flask active. So that's why I waited to use it till now. Let's go ahead and take our shield off. We don't need it now. We don't want to be fat rolling. There's some more down here. They're just sitting there chilling, so you can get the drop on them. Kill them any way you like, but I just like shooting them. You can actually get 3 for 1 here. There's 3 just sitting here, and if you aim it just right, you can get 3 for 1, which we're going to do right here. Boom! Very nice. Now for the boss, once we only got a few more to kill here. For the boss, it's just 1 clean rot knight. We dealt with these enemies already when we got our golden scarab, so they're extremely weak to fire, but we have the dagger talisman now, which all we have to do is get behind him and backstab him 1 time, and it's going to take pretty much all of his health, and then we're going to finish him off with 1 volcano pot, and that's a wrap, guys. And we don't have to worry about the poison right now because we put our flask on. We still have enough time to do whatever we need. We're going to apply all of our buffs as usual. And we're just aiming to get behind him. He will do a charge attack most of the time when he'll usually open with 1. He didn't open with it this time. I tried to use Royal Knight's Resolve, and right here is where you can get the backstab, and you can see he's pretty much dead now with just 1 backstab and 1 pot later, and he's done. And we'll get the Winged Sword Insignia Talisman. Very useful talisman. But just this talisman on its own isn't going to get us what we need. We need some more talismans. But before we get the companion piece to the Winged Sword Insignia, we're going to go make a pit stop to the Weeping Peninsula to pick up the health regen talisman that I mentioned before that will go with the icon shield, the Blessed Dew Talisman. Now we need to make our way to the south of the Weeping Peninsula to a tower called the Tower of Return. There is a chest in here that will take us to the Lindale capital via the transporter trap. Now, we can't get to Lindale Capital until we kill 2 demigods. We've only killed one, Godric the Grafted. But we're going to kill our second one at the end of this episode, called Radahn. By killing Radahn, we will have access to 2 areas. We'll be able to get into Lindale Capital and into the Nokron Eternal City, and that's where we want to go. And we will end the episode there once we kill our boss at the end of the episode, called the Ancestral Spirit. And we'll get a nice talisman that will allow us to regen our focus points for every kill. So right now we're just headed to the area where we can shoot all the enemies, because there are quite a few enemies in this area that are guarding the Tower of Return, and we want to do it strategically and with little hassle as possible. You could just run to the Tower of Return if you want to, but this is an optimal guide for killing enemies effectively, so this is what we're going to do. But again, feel free to just run to the tower if you want. There is a grace here we're going to collect. You'll see this walking mausoleum. You'll know you're in the right spot. Just stick to the left, and you'll see the glitter of the rays of grace here. You'll know you're about to hit it right here. Get back on Torrent, and we're headed down here. This is where you want to go, the Tower of Return. Very south of the Weeping Peninsula there. You don't want to go too far to the left here. There's 2 areas you can go. You can go the first immediate left up here, but I don't recommend it because there are enemies that will sound the trumpet. So instead of going the left up here, right in between those 2 right there, you don't want to go that way. Instead, skip it and go to the next section right here. If you cut between the 2 structures, you will get all the enemies in the area will be alerted. So we want to be stealthy here so we don't have to deal with the enemies. So the enemies to the left there, they will sound the trumpet, and every enemy in the area will come upon you. There are a total of 10 enemies guarding the Tower of Return, but we're going to take them out very strategically, so we're going to make it very easy for ourselves. You want to get off turret right here. You want to get an overlook of the area here. Good view. You'll see there's the knight on the horse, accompanied by his 2 friends, but there's 3 enemies right here that we're just going to throw a pot at, take them all out at once. That's 3 down out of 10. Now, we want to kill the knight outright, but to do that, we're going to have to use a ballista bolt, not a bone ballista bolt. The bone ballista bolt won't be good enough to kill him in one shot. So hopefully you have some on reserve. If not, you can go back to the isolated merchant in Altus Plateau to get some more. As he starts to come towards you, go ahead and start applying some buffs, and we're going to wait till he stops and then shoot him. You should kill him with one shot. The horse kind of causes a problem here because I wanted to get 2 for 1 and just get behind him and shoot him with 1 bolt, but we're going to go ahead and put our stealth setup on. And remember, if you're crouched, you're 100% invisible to the enemy. They cannot see you, so enemies from afar won't be able to see you, like snipers and such, because there's a sniper up on the tower here, and we're going to take him out. But we also have the Crepus Vial, which will allow us to have no noise. We were not making any noise whatsoever. So with that and the Concealing Veil combined, we're as stealthy as we're going to be right now. We're just going to get 2 for 1 here. Now we're going to shoot. Well, sometimes the other guy will get alerted here. But there are 3 enemies here. You can shoot 1 here. But usually one of them will hear it and come. And yeah, here he comes. You can shoot him. There's a sniper up top as well, but we're going to go ahead and finish this last guy off here. Now the one up top, you could just climb the ladder and backstab him, but I just like to shoot him. All the enemies in the area are done. So we're going to be able to go to the transporter now with no resistance. You want to put your Cestus on for this next encounter, though. We're going to kill a giant golem that's in the Lindale capital. So he's scaled for difficulty of that area. So he's not going to be as easy as to kill as the other ones. But if you have the Axe Talisman and the Dagger Talisman equipped, once we stun him, we'll use the Mirror's Record, and we'll be able to kill him in two stabs, 2 criticals. And with the Axe Talisman and our Cestus, it won't take very long to kill him. But be wary, he'll die in 1 hit, so make sure to hit the Grace before taking him on. But here's your transporter trap. You'll go to Lindale, which we will have access to at the very, very end of this episode. Because like I said, you need 2 demigods killed before you can get access to the area. Just hit this Grace, and you see the golem right ahead of us. If you wanted to, you could apply the tiers that allow you to break stances more easily, but it is not necessary. It is just not. We're just going to go up to his leg and start wailing on him. Charged R2s. He'll go down. Try to get Royal's Knight's Resolve if you can, and I couldn't get it here because I was trying to rush to him before he got up. 1 critical, and then just get your Cestus back out and start wailing again. Anywhere on the body you can get him. He'll go down very fast with the charged R2s. Down again. Probably didn't need to use Royal Knight's Resolve here, but I did anyway just for giggles. And he's done. Golems will never be a problem with this strategy, guys. And you will get your talisman. The Blessed Dew Talisman. With this combined with the Icon Shield will give you 5 health per second. With no buffs. That's just out of the door. Pure health regen. Which is very nice. And of course you stack that with Blessing's Boon and you will get even more health regen per second. And we're going to get even more health regen as we're getting some items throughout this playthrough. So health will not be a problem. You will not need flasks of any kind at the end of all of this. Now we're headed to Mount Gilmere because we need to get into the Seethewater Cave. Unfortunately, the Seethewater Cave requires 2 stone sword keys to get into. But trust me, it's worth it because the talisman that we're going to get, called the Kindred of Rot's Exaltation, will give us a bonus damage increase as we're proccing the poison in the area or rot in the area. So if you proc poison or rot on yourself or the enemy, you will get a bonus increase of damage, and you stack that with the Winged Knight's insignia that we already got. And you can see where this is going, guys. We stack talismans, we stack damage. And this will be important for the future when we're fighting bosses. But we're not even close to being done with our setups for the end games and all that. This guy's just sitting here. We'll just whip him to death. You do not want to go to the right side. You want to take this the way I got up here because there are ballasts in the area that will cause death blight upon you. And it's the equivalent of curse. So you don't want to get hit by that. We're going to go ahead and put our light source on. Now for the setup, you're going to want your Nox Flowing Sword early on. You're going to want the Beast Torch because there are rats in here. We're going to need that. The Jellyfish Shield for pot damage. For talismans, we definitely need the Fire Scorpion Charm and the Ritual Sword Talisman. This is just to boost our fire damage even further because there are slugs in the area that are similar to the Dark Souls slugs where they're only weak to fire. So you want to come in here and hit your Grace. Do any last minute adjustments you need to do. I'm going to drop down here and take out a soldier that's just going to be on patrol, but 1 flowing form later and he's done. You can hit him through the wall, and this guy, he won't even get a chance to draw his sword, and he'll be dead as well. Now be careful, you do not want to be in the poison as much as you don't have to be, so we're going to run to this island here in the middle once we drop down, but we're going to go ahead and chug our physics flask right here. This has the Crimson Burst tier in it, which will give us 3 minutes of health regen. But you want to run to this island right in front of you, but be wary of the slug that will fall down, and you're going to use 1 volcano pot to take him out. with the crystal tier, the flaming shrouding crystal tier active as well in your flask, it's only going to take one pot to kill these guys. Well, if you get a direct hit. We're going to do a 180, and there is a Rot Disciple just wandering about. We're going to just kill him. Now there's an area off to the left here we're going to go to. But don't run too fast because there's a slug that will drop down. And I've been killed by that thing so many times, but one volcano pot will take him out. Now you want to have your beach torch equipped because there is a mama rat along with some baby rats up here. But as long as you have the torch equipped, you'll get the drop on them. It's always a good idea to try to kill the rats if you can, especially the mama rats, because they have a chance to drop the rune arcs. You never know what you're going to get there. You'll get some lump of flesh, 4 of them, and now we're going to go back and turn left right here. There is a group of rotten disciples just circling around this structure, but you can just run right in the middle of them and use flowing form. You'll take a group of them out at once, and you can even hit them through the structure. Now we're going to retool. We're going to put our jar cannon on and take off the fire scorpion charm and replace it with the arrow's reach talisman so that we can take out the remaining rot disciples that are perched above in sniping positions. There's one there, one here, and a third one here. Once they're dead, let's retool and replenish our volcano pots as well. Go back to the fire scorpion charm and make sure you replenish your fire volcano pots because you're going to need them here. Drop down and stay to the left in this little side cave. This will take you to another area with rats. This is the area where the rotten disciples were that we sniped. We're going to apply some buffs because we want as much fire damage as possible because the Miranda Blossoms here in particular are more tanky than the other ones, and they hold a armor set for us, the mushroom set. So let's go ahead and buff again. The usual with our volcano pot setup, just throw one here in this group. All the disciples should die, and then you want to turn your attention to the blossom. This one's got a lot of health, guys. You just keep throwing until he's dead. If you have to replenish your pots, just run away until you can do that as well. Very tanky. Our physics flask has run out, so now we have to put on Blessing's Boon to avoid getting damaged by the poison now. We should still have enough of the Blessing's Boon effect to... It's not going to wear out by the time we get to the boss, so we'll be alright. You just want to drop down here and take a right. This is the area towards the boss. You do want to heal the poison, though. We will have to go into poison area again with the boss. Now, this boss is not that easy, guys, especially with our vigor level. But with the Godric Rune, we'll be able to take at least one hit before dying. And we're going to use our Man Spirit Ash to also help us with this boss fight. It's actually a really good Spirit Ash for this boss fight, because he's got the Magma Whip Candlestick, and these enemies are extremely weak to fire, and it can kind of stun them when he does his weapon skill. Just drop down here, make sure you have the Beast Torch equipped. You don't even have to fight these rats if you don't want to. Just drop down. The main thing is to just occupy one of the Crendered Rots while your Spirit Ash is occupying the other guy. This is not the easiest fight, though, because like I said, they do this Pest Threads spell that will just hone in on you. But we're going to do the best we can. As soon as you enter, you must summon your Spirit Ash if you don't want a headache. Then run over to this guy here, and if you can, just try to get behind him and backstab him. Other than that, they're extremely weak to slash damage as well. You can see with our Nox Flowing Sword, it's only going to take 2 shots, direct shots. Then we can just, from a distance, you can use your volcano pots. And the main thing is just wait until he turns around, and you can backstab him. Try to dodge through the pest threads if you can. Well, he finished him off by himself. Good job. We'll get the Kindred of Rot Exaltation. Now, for the next part of this episode, we're going to go collect some Ashes of War in the Altus Plateau. Some of these Ashes of War are extremely useful, guys. This next one, Prayerful Strike, we're going to put it on our Sacrificial Axe. Now, the Sacrificial Axe already gives us regen for our FP, but now we're going to make it to where it can do both. Not just FP regen, but 30% of our max HP with 1 strike. So we'll be doubling our regen for just 1 weapon. Now I'm making some marks on the map here to get some additional Ashes of War. I've marked one up there, and we're going to mark one down here. I'm going to be going to these 3 locations to get 3 Ashes of War. 2 of the Ashes of War are lightning based. So one of them is a really fun Ash of War to use called Lightning Ram. You basically turn into Sonic the Hedgehog and roll around with lightning attached to yourself, and you can just roll through enemies. It's really fun to use, guys. And this game is about having fun, so we're going to have some fun. Now, the other Ash of War is called Lightning Slash. This will give us the ability to put an innate lightning damage on a weapon, and we're going to put it on a falchion. And I have farmed for quite a few falchions off of video, so I'm going to make sure I have access to any element at any time. Now here you just want to get right here and wait for the Invisible Scarab to come, and of course Gravitas for the win, and you'll get your Prayerful Strike. Now on to the next one. Now, this next Ash of War is quite a bit out of the way, but we want to start at this site of grace right here. You've been to this site of grace a few times already, so you should know where you are. But we're going to make our way towards a campsite, which is going to have the scarab that has the Ash of War in it. Because we have quite the trek in front of us, let's talk about what we're going to do for the remainder of this episode, what our goals are, and what we're going to collect. So while Elden Ring is open world and you can go to pretty much anywhere you want to right out of the gate, there are certain situations where you're not going to be able to go anywhere. So the areas that are locked off to us right now are Lindale Royal Capital, the Mountaintops of the Giants, and Nokron the Eternal City. We have to do certain things to get access to these areas, and we're going to do them in this episode. We have to kill another demigod. Now you have a choice. You could go to the Relicaria Academy and kill Renala, which is what most people do. However, I think going after Radahn as your second demigod is more beneficial in the long run, because not only will you have access to Lindale Royal Capital, but you'll also have access to Nokron the Eternal City. And Nokron the Eternal City has a lot of goodies in there that are going to benefit us in the long run, and I like to get it early, so I like to just go after Radahn first. A lot of people don't like going after Radahn until later on because they just feel like they need a lot of vigor, at least a minimum of 30 vigor to take him on, and it's just not true, guys. We're going to take him on with a base of 12 vigor, but with our great rune from Godric, we'll still have 17 vigor, but that's still not even close to 30 vigor. And I'm going to show you guys the super easy way to kill him, where you will take minimal to no damage, and we'll reap the benefits of killing this boss. Of course, we are going to use attacks from horseback and from range. We're not going to attack him in melee style. He is extremely difficult if you try to do that, but that's why the game gives you additional options like, oh, let's try the horseback combat. Yes, the horseback combat is the way to go against Radahn. And you'll see that we're just going to use the pulley crossbow and use status effects to take him on. Now right here, you want to stick to the left because there is a ballista that's just going to be firing at you. Actually, I think it's one of those catapults. And it's got really good accuracy, so I like to stay by the trees and put myself between the mountain and the trees here. And I usually don't take any damage. But we're coming up on the camp up here. We'll continue to talk about Radahn shortly. But yeah, just to the left up here is your little campsite. And we're just going to use flowing form. There is a rather stronger knight that's just sitting there to the right. Probably should have killed him first, but you just want to go in and get the Ash of War. Then draw your attention to the other knight. These guys are cannon fodder though. And that's it. We have the Lightning Slash Ash of War now. Now we need to make our way down here to our next section. But on the way, we're going to kill a boss. A mini-boss of sorts. It's another Black Assassin. Now killing this Black Assassin will net us the Black Knife. Now we're not going to really use this knife as a weapon, but it has a special skill called Blade of Death. Now what this does is it applies a death debuff on the opponent. I'm going to read this directly from the book. Applies Destined Death debuff. Reduces opponent's total maximum HP by 10% for 45 seconds. And then deals damage for 2.25% of their HP over 5 seconds. So this can be useful in bosses as well. Again, we're not going to really use it as a weapon though, but as a debuff. You want to stop by these ruins here to get a Somber 5. These are kind of rare right now, so we want to get as many as we can. And there's one right here in this chair. Another Somber 5. Our next destination is down here. But like I said, we're going to go kill a mini-boss before we're going down there. The mini-boss is very close by. Now I recommend using your Spirit Ash to help you out, because this guy is more tanky than the other ones you fought. He's scaled higher. He's going to hit harder. He's got more HP. We're just looting this area here to get some free runes. Although runes are really not a problem right now. I just see something shiny and just have to go after it, I guess. I guess I couldn't kill him with the flowing form. Now once we're done looting the grave site, we can move on. There's going to be an opportunity to collect some Fulgur Bloom up here. We can use that to craft our lightning pots when we need to. Just try not to get stuck on the tree like I did here. Remember, you can actually get struck by lightning here whenever there's these Fulgur Blooms coming up. You can get struck by this lightning. I didn't think you could, but you can. There's a Site of Grace here you want to hit. Now, as far as the Black Knife Assassin strategy here, we're just going to treat it like the other ones. We're going to use our flowing form because they're extremely weak to slash damage. You can try to backstab them if you want to, but I think they have a resistance to critical damage. I don't do nearly as much critical damage, even with the Dagger Talisman equipped, than I would any other enemy. So I think they have somewhat resistance to it, since it makes sense since they're an assassin, right? So, yeah. I would just use the flowing form with your Spirit Ash as a distraction, and that's really it. You should know their moveset by now. But when you approach this structure right here, she'll be sitting right in front of the entrance. I've tried to sneak up on her, it just doesn't work. As soon as you get the opportunity to summon your Spirit Ash, you'll see that icon pop up. Just dismount and summon in your Spirit Ash. We're just going to buff as usual. But our main attack is going to be Flowing Form. That's all we're really going to use, is Flowing Form. The slash damage is very effective against the Black Knife Assassins. You can tank through some of their hits, but because this one is going to do more damage than the other ones, just be careful. Heal if you have to. But our Spirit Ash will distract, and as soon as it does, you can just do another free slash, and it shouldn't take but a few hits, and they're done. We'll get the Black Knife for our efforts. And like I said, this will debuff an enemy or a boss. We'll use it somewhere along the line. Now, on to the Lightning Ram. This is the Ash of War, like I said, that will give us the ability to act like Sonic the Hedgehog. A really fun Ash of War to use here. Now be wary, these livestock can actually inflict lightning damage on you. That's why they're yellow. Now our next destination is Redmane Castle in the Caelid region. That is where Radahn is, but before we go to Radahn, we need to make a few pit stops. We're going to go to the Cathedral of Dragon Communion in the Caelid region because this is the closest site of grace to the merchant that we need to go to. This merchant sells a cookbook that we must have for Radahn. Well, it's going to make it a lot easier. Let's just put it that way. He sells the cookbook that will allow us to craft rot bolts. Now, I did say that these butterflies that are required to make these rot bolts are extremely limited right now. We're going to rectify that later, but for now, we need to buy the cookbook. We can also buy the key as well. It shouldn't take many bolts to proc the rot status on Radahn. It takes, I think, six bolts, which is not that much because his resistance level is pretty low. We're just going to use all of our butterflies immediately and craft as many as we can. Now we're going to head to this side of grace, and we're going to collect another useful Ash of War, which is right here, very close to this side of grace. The Cragblade. Now this thing is very, very strong, guys. I should have gotten this Ash of War a lot earlier because I had access to this side of grace. But what this Ash of War does is it increases your physical damage by 15% and stance damage by 10% for 60 seconds. That's pretty significant and will stack with other things. We ran into a bit of trouble getting this scarab. Just make sure you chase it down and get it any way you manage it. And we need to go back to the side of grace. And there'll be a teleporter nearby. This teleporter will take you to Redmane Castle only after you visited the Altus Plateau. As long as you visited any grace in the Altus Plateau, you'll be able to get to Redmane Castle and initiate the boss fight with Radahn. There are a few things we need to take care of before the boss fight, though. There is a missable gesture from one of the NPCs here you want to get. And we need to exhaust the dialogue of both Blythe and Alexander. Now let's prep for Radahn. You are not going to need any FP for this boss fight, so put everything into health. As far as your physics flask, we want to make sure we have both opaline crystal tears here, since our vigor is low and he will cause great damage to us. As far as weaponry, we're going to get rid of all this right now. We need the pulley crossbow. That's it. As far as the bolts, we're going to do rot bolts and bleed bolts. And we want both of the arrow talismans. That's all you need for this boss. And of course, your health. I put on the exalted flesh, but it's not necessary. But with the rotten bolts and the blood bone bolts, you should be able to take Radahn out with relative ease. We're going to talk to Blythe here. Exhaust his dialogue. And then this NPC has the gesture, the missable gesture. Proper bow. and we'll talk to Alexander. You will be able to summon these NPCs for the Radahn boss fight, and that's important because it gives you a distraction to constantly unload bolts into Radahn. There is another Somber 5 over here. We're going to go ahead and get this. There's a nice little cutscene here if you talk to Jared, the witch hunter here. Tell him you're ready. We're not going to watch the cutscene, but it's pretty cool to watch. You'll get a gesture here. You'll take the lift down once you go through this church area and get ready for the fight. Now, the main thing about this fight is you have to know how to dodge his attacks. With being on horseback is the easiest way to do it, but still, you might take a hit or two from his arrows because you're trying to summon in your friends, and at the same time, you're trying to dodge his arrows. That's the first phase, is when he's going to be shooting arrows at you. He'll start off with these long distance ones, and then he'll shoot a flurry of ones that just go into the ground and follow you for a while. So it's quite annoying. But the main way of dodging the arrows is you have to be spurring a torrent and going in a horizontal fashion to dodge them. I'm going to take a few hits here of showing you what not to do, of course. You can just wait and just kind of see. I didn't do it right there. Even though I didn't take any damage, that's because torrent took the damage. You see, that one took almost all my health. Just try to summon as many of your NPC friends as you possibly can. And you'll spur along like that just to dodge the arrows. And here's the ones that go along the ground. These are quite annoying. I hate these. But what we're trying to do is get in range, and we need to rot him with the rotten bolts that we just crafted. Once you have an opportunity, just go in with it and start unloading the rot bolts. As soon as you have rotted him, you can switch to the blood bone bolts. He's already been rotted. It only took 6 bolts to rot him. And the blood bone bolts will cause great damage to him. He's weak to both bleed and rot, so that's good for us because we're just going to continuously use it. He's almost down to his second phase already. Using your friends as a distraction is really the key to this fight, really. But the second phase is where you're definitely going to want to drink your flask. He's going to go up into the sky here, and that's what your cue to drink the flask. You want to have a nice panic button, and this is it, because the opaline crystal tears will negate a lot of damage, and one is a 90% damage negation, but it's only for one hit. You just want to continue to stay back and make sure you start spurring your horse as soon as you see these glowing balls come at you, because they will kill you very quickly. But I still think this is a very easy fight when you're doing it like this. As long as you have the pulley crossbow and a few distractions, you can easily make short work of this fight. But you still want to rot him in the second phase. But I think in the second phase he loses the rot status. You just want to apply it again, and then you can just keep your distance if you want to. Once he's rotted again, he will die on his own. And here's where you just really want to spur your horse. Just keep your distance. Try to jump if he does that ground attack. You definitely do not want to get close to him, that's for sure. And that's it. You definitely want to use your rune acquisition setup here just to get as many runes as you can, because he gives you quite a few. Now, I did a quick edit here because I got lost in the arena, but you want to find this grace, this site of grace here. I like this cutscene, so I'm leaving it in. here's where you want to be on the map. This will be your site of grace. You'll need to exhaust both Blythe and especially Alexander here. You must talk to Alexander before moving on. Make sure you exhaust all of his dialogue before moving on. You definitely do not want to miss out on the dialogue here because you could end the quest.
If it's on the go or a fight.
He'll be scrounging through some remains. Just make sure you talk to him until he repeats himself.
Aye, one hit after that, and as such. As luck, if I can't, you know, who could expect it? Just you wait.
When he says, just you wait,
Who could expect
till we meet again, and it starts chuckling, you'll know you've done it. Now that explosion that you just saw is our ticket into the Nokron Eternal City, which is in Limgrave. But before we go there, let's go ahead and go back to the Round Table Hold. Because after you kill your second demigod, no matter who it is, you can come back to the Round Table Hold and talk to Inna, and you will get another talisman slot. Talisman pouch. So now we'll have 3 talismans available at all times. Going from 2 to 3 is huge, guys.
To become the thing as much.
Now we need to head back to Fort Heights, site of grace, because nearby is the entrance to Nokron Eternal City. So on the map, you'll just go back to Fort Height, and you'll just follow to where that red spot is on the map. We're not going to really spend a whole lot of time in Nokron Eternal City. We're mainly just trying to get to one of the bosses. Well, there's actually 2 bosses we're going to fight in a row here. But one of them is a cakewalk. It's basically ourselves. We're fighting ourselves. And it's only going to take a few shots to kill them. But the next fight is a little more involved. But we know a way of killing it before it gets to its second phase. As long as you kill it before it gets to its second phase, the second boss fight is no issue either. And it will give us a talisman, well, the ability to get a talisman. It's a remembrance, but we can use it to get a talisman that will allow us to get FP back for every kill that we get. You can pretty much ignore what I'm doing in the inventory here. I'm not even sure what I'm doing here. The only thing you really need for the time being is the Nox Flowing Sword, because that's what we're going to use to kill the Mimic Tier. And it's also what we're going to use to kill the next boss, the Ancestral Spirit. We'll do another prep for that one. The crystal tiers are fine for now, but we are going to split our flasks up again and get our FP flasks back. Now onwards to Nokron Eternal City. It's very close by. Like I say, there's a huge crater in the ground here. And there's some fall damage you can sustain, and you can actually die from the falls. You just want to make your way down just like this. Well, actually, maybe not just like this. I think like right here, it's probably not the best way to do it. I could have fallen right there. But you're going to make your way down here and just circle around until you can drop off again. We will explore Nokron Eternal City in greater detail later on, but for now we're just going to make a beeline towards the bosses. We are going to collect a additional torch called the Ghost Flame Torch, but as far as loot goes, that's pretty much all we're going to get right now. We will come back to this area though. You just want to make your way down here. We'll need to make our way across some rooftops to get to the torch. You'll need to make one tricky jump, but other than that, it'll be pretty much easy to get to. There's some sleep grease here, but we're going to be using St. Trina's sword, which will give us infinite amount of sleep status. You want to make your way to the right here. You got to make a tricky jump right here, and you'll have the torch on the next building. Make another jump, and here's your ghost flame torch. You can ignore the enemies if you want to. They're like these little blobs. They can drop some tears for you for like material purposes, but I'm just gonna run past them. They can actually shoot at you too. Don't stick around here for too long. You jump through this window over here. Now there's some enemies that will fire ghost flame arrows at you, I think. But it's just, they're cannon fodder, guys. We're so powerful, we just go through them no problem. And they're easy to dodge. Take them out any way you feel fit. Flowing form will take them both out. As long as you're strafing, you'll dodge the arrows easily. Now here's your site of grace. And we're going to ignore, like I said, we're ignoring all this area right here. We're just trying to get to the boss, which is the Mimic tier. We got to fight ourselves, but it's just, we're so fragile, guys. I hope it's not that easy to kill us, really. There is the ghost glovewort bell bearing here. I guess I lied. There is another piece of loot you can pick up. But you want to come down here. And there is a Nox monk that has a Nox flowing sword. You don't really want to fight him, so we're just going to dodge him. So don't go left here. Instead, avoid the stairs and drop down over here. Because he's coming up the stairs and you just don't want to fight him. There he is right there. The Mimic tier boss is right ahead of us here. The Mimic tier boss, there's nothing to really say because you're fighting yourself. Just use Nox flowing sword a couple of times and you'll kill yourself. You get a pretty good reward for killing yourself, though. It will help us with item discovery. A little premature there. It's just not anything to talk about, guys. Just a few Nox flowing swords and we killed ourselves. But the silver tier mask, this will allow us to have better item discovery. Now bear in mind that the silver tier mask, while it will increase your arcane by 8, it will also cause you to cause less damage with physical attacks by 5%. Not a huge problem, but just something you need to be aware of. Now this next area, we need to light up 6 obelisks structures in order to get to the boss fight. We're going to use our stealth setup because we don't want to deal with the enemies really. And using the Concealing Veil and the Crepus Vial Talisman, we'll be able to avoid most encounters. But we'll need the Beast Torch because of some rats. We'll be able to use Torrent on the bridge here. You can't just activate it in the boss arena. There will be another Scarab over here that has a Somber 5. Another Somber 5 we need to get. Now, we're just going to make our way to the very end of this bridge first. Then we're going to drop off the left side, and that will be our first obelisk we need to light up. There are a total of 6 of them, and they're surrounded by a lot of these enemies. We don't want to really fight them. We're going to take the path of least resistance. There's also a red wolf that we don't want to fight, similar to the one in the Ray Lucaria, which we have not fought yet. But right here, you'll get to the end, just jump off, and here's your first obelisk. There's a Trina's Lily right here. Now, stealth is important here, I feel, because there's just so many enemies here. There's no sense in fighting them. I mean, if you use Crepice Veil and the Concealing Veil, you probably will not draw their attention. Let's go ahead and make our way to our second obelisk over here. You can actually roll with the Concealing Veil and you will not alert the enemies to your presence. Unless you're in range, of course. I really wish FromSoft would give us some kind of visible indicator to show that we're invisible, but they just didn't do it. Just the further back you are, though, the better you'll be off. Here's your next one up here. Right next to this singing enemy over here. So 2 of 6. Now you want to make your way over here, and there's going to be a red wolf to the right there. It's going to be making its way around. As long as you get to this obelisk as fast as you can, you don't have to deal with the red wolf. That's half of the obelisk's done. There's an Ash of War up here, I believe. But you also got to make sure your Beast of Torch is equipped, because there are rats about coming up. They've knocked me off the cliff and killed me in the past, which is very annoying. But here's your Ash of War right here. Yeah, when I was trying to kill this scarab, a rat came about and knocked me off. Enchanted Shot. And there's your other obelisk. Now for this next one, we're just going to sneak up behind them and just low-key just hit it, because there's a bunch of enemies down here. A bunch of them. That's why we went the stealth route. Of course, you might draw the attention of a few of the snipers, but all these enemies that are right there in front of us, we don't have to deal with them. And that's it. All the obelisks are lit, and you just come over here and enter the boss arena. Now for this boss, the main problem with this boss is it will heal itself to pretty much 3/4 of its health. So you don't want that to happen. So how do you do it? You gotta do as much damage as you possibly can before it can heal. So what I recommend is using a spirit summon to draw the attention of the boss, and then use flowing form under its legs. The more you're under the legs, the more likely you're going to damage the boss quickly. But as soon as it gets under its half health mark, it's going to try to heal. You need to prevent it from healing as much as you can. And as long as you do that, it's just got some weird attacks where it jumps in the air, and on the 3rd jump it will try to slam you. I'm going to go with this setup here. As much damage as possible, so I'm putting on Radahn Sword Seal as one of my talismans, just to get a few more ticks of extra damage, because this is a boss that you want to DPS check yourself for. As soon as you enter the arena, just summon in. Man Spirit Ash here, Man Serpent. Your main goal is to get underneath him. Nox Flowing Sword for the win here. Sometimes they'll spew out this blue flame, but you need to just get underneath its legs. That's the main thing. I did pop a pickled Foulfoot here just to get a few more stamina regen. Sometimes it will just spew the flame from above, and sometimes it will try to slam you. But just underneath its legs, guys. I don't know how I didn't get hit by that. Sometimes it will try to mule kick you. At this point, it's going to try to heal. You need to do as much damage as you can at this point. Luckily, I was able to hit him in the nose here and ended the fight before he could re-heal. And we'll get the remembrance of the Regal Ancestor. This will give us our FP back for every kill. We're going to go ahead and collect that right now from the Round Table Hold. Now to end the episode, guys, we're going to go to the Altus Plateau and to the capital outskirts and kill the demonic tree sentinel to gain access to the Lindale Royal Capital. To quickly get to this boss, you just want to go back to the isolated merchant shack in the capital outskirts, where we got the ballista bolts and all that. We're going to go ahead and level now. It's been a while. I wanted to get my faith up to 30 so that I could use the Cipher Pata, and I also wanted to get my arcane up to 16 so I could use the clinging bone. Eventually, we need to get our intelligence up to 23 so that we can use the Moonveil katana.
Well, I took you no matter to lay out your arm.
I'm just going to level up my pulley crossbow for now because I'm going to be using it in the next boss fight anyway. And I've gotten some Somber 5s already. And I'm going to go up to level 6 here. Now for the demonic tree sentinel, it's pretty easy because all we're going to do is use blood bone bolts and use our rotten stray ash to rot him. It's pretty easy to rot this boss because the initial part of the fight, he's just sitting there and he's just going to let the rotten stray go to town on him. And then the horse will rear up, giving it's a long time you get before he even starts attacking. So that window of opportunity is huge. But we're going to use pretty much the same setup as we did for Radahn. But we just need really the Error's Reach talisman. And that's it. You don't have to use the rotten bone bolts either because our rotten stray ash will pretty much take him out. I'm just going with some stamina here. But you want to switch to the rotten stray ash for this fight. We're just going to follow the road here. You'll see some golems along the way that will be shooting at you, but you can just stick to the left side and you pretty much don't have to worry about it. But the demonic tree sentinel, I mean, he's pretty hard if you have to go melee only. But again, we're using the pulley crossbow method, and it's just a cakewalk, guys. It really is. It's not hard at all, really. You have to just dodge the fire attacks from the horse and just keep your distance and keep pelting him with bolts, and it'll be over before you know it. There is an alternative method, a really, really, really big cheese method to kill this boss where you can poison him over and over with a mist, and you'll never have to fight him at all. But we're not going to do it that way, but it's an alternative method you can use. But we don't even have that Ash of War right now. But I will get it in the future. But it is there if you want to use it. It's nice that they have these ultra cheese strats for people that just don't want to deal with it. So right here, you want to get off torrent. We need to summon in our rotten stray ash. We're going to buff all the necessities here. And we're just going to start using bone blood bolts over and over. Don't stop shooting. Eventually, the rotten stray will cause damage to him and rot him. It doesn't take long, actually. Because we're distracting him with the blood bone bolts while the stray is just nippling at the ankles. Eventually, the boss will go into the second phase and imbue lightning on his weapon. You'll have to be careful of a new attack he does right here. You have to get this timing just right. So as he's pulling it down, that's your cue to roll. It might take some practice, but it really isn't that hard, guys. Once the boss is rotted in the second phase, you can just run away if you want. It's really not that hard to kill this boss with this setup. Our stray ash didn't even die in that. That's amazing. Alright guys, that is it for this episode. In the next episode, we will be making our way towards the mountaintops of the giants. But in order to do that, we have to go through Lindale Royal Capital, which is where we are right now. This is the entrance to it. We'll have to kill a couple of bosses to gain access to the mountaintops of the giants. Godfrey the Elden Lord and Morgott the Omen King. I will see you guys in the next one.